Welcome to the Week 4 Faculty Guidance. This week I'm going to talk about ethics in technology. During the last couple of weeks in class, we've looked at the subject of copyright and privacy, both of which are ethical dilemmas in the use of technology. This week I'd like to explore the topic a little further. Ethics change with technology. This is an incredibly profound statement. What it means is that as technology evolves, the ethics associated with that technology also evolve and change. For example, when we invented the internal combustion engine, productivity increased, but at the same time, so did smog and pollution. Likewise, the creation of the ultracentrifuge allowed us to purify uranium, which helped power nuclear power plants, but also gave us the ability to wage nuclear war. So there's a lot of times technology has both a positive side and a negative side, and the ethics associated with determine how we view that technology. What is ethics? Well, ethics, as it says in the first definition, is a system of moral principles. While this is a general definition, it's probably the best definition. I'm not going to read all the other definitions to you. I'll let you read those for yourself. However, what I do want to point out is that ethics are particular to a class of people, a group of people, or a culture. Not all cultures or groups have the same ethical foundation. One culture can see something as being ethical that another culture sees as being totally unethical. And this is a real dilemma for us as we move forward in a global economy. Because as we do business with other cultures, they don't necessarily see the world the same way we see the world. Then with respect to technology, there's a debate going on in academia whether technology in and of itself possesses ethical qualities, or do we, by the use of the technology or our actions, cause a technology to be good or bad. There's no real right or wrong answer in this debate, but it's what you as an individual can accept and how you perceive the world. As I go through this lecture, I'm not going to make any value judgments on the technology that I'm citing. Rather, I want to bring up these technologies because they're probably the best examples I can find of technologies that can be both good and bad depending on your perception of them. So the first technology I want to talk about is genetics. I understand genetics is not a technology, but genetic testing and genetic engineering are technologies. For years, doctors and hospitals have done prenatal testing for things like Down syndrome. However, recently, once we've understood the genome, we now have the ability to take an adult, analyze their genome, and see if they have a predisposition to any type of genetic diseases. This has led to an incredible debate on ethics. Should people know if they're predestined for a genetic type of disorder? And if they do know, do they have the right to tell anyone else? Does your insurance company have a right to know if you're predisposed to this type of genetic disorder? These are huge ethical issues. When it comes to genetic engineering, crops and animals, we have cloned crops, we've cloned animals. And it seems like when we clone mammals, it's more of a genetic and more of an ethical issue than when we clone microorganisms. Many of the drugs that we use today are and have been developed by the manipulation of genes in microorganisms. So again, we come upon this ethical question, is it proper to do genetic engineering? And like I said, there's no really right or wrong answer. It's what society will accept. As another example, which is actually very current, are Google Glasses. There are huge ethical issues with the use of Google Glasses. One of them is, let's say you're in an interview and the person's wearing Google Glasses. How do you even know they're paying attention to you? So they could have an attention syndrome. And then there's the recording of events. people walking around with Google Glasses have the ability to record you and your environment without your knowledge or your permission. And they then, once they have that recording, can spread it anywhere they want using technology and the internet. So again, it's a right to privacy. Movies, you can go into a premiere movie, record it, and sell it again. Is that ethical? Certain business transactions, should a person be able to wear Google Glasses and record that business transaction as it happens? Terrorism intelligence gathering. A lot of areas, airports, bus terminals, train terminals, don't allow a lot of picture taking because of the intelligence gathering by terrorism. And then there's the Norwich Order. Well, what the Norwich Order says is that if you have information and you can be subpoenaed to take the information you have, and if it's available, and if the information you have, you can identify a wrongdoer, you can identify whether something happens or not, if you can trace an asset, or if you can preserve evidence or property, you can be subpoenaed to turn that information over. So do people that wear Google Glasses and record information in society, are they under the jurisdiction of the Norwich Order? There are places where Google Glasses have already been banned. Some bars, most notably in Seattle. Gentlemen's Club, well, that's kind of a duh, isn't it? Movie theaters will not allow you to wear Google Glasses when you go into them. Casinos, strictly forbidden. West Virginia is trying to pass an ordinance that will not allow you to wear Google Glasses while you drive a car. And more government offices are banning the use of Google Glasses. And my final example is the IRS and email. So here's the situation. According to the 2009 IRS handbook, the IRS doesn't agree with the Fourth Amendment to some extent. They believe the Fourth Amendment doesn't protect email because the Electronic Communications Privacy Act of 1986 says that emails that are stored in the cloud for more than 180 days are considered to be abandoned, and therefore they are in the public domain and no warrant is required for the authorities to access it. So the IRS is taking this letter of the law literally and saying, if there are emails over 180 days, we have the right to access them without getting a warrant. Now here's a classic case of, as technology has changed, the law has not kept up with the changes in technology. And again, it's not right or wrong, it's just that things haven't kept up, that the law hasn't kept up with the technology. So finally, as C3PO said to RTD2, you really can't trust a strange computer out there. I hope you've enjoyed our week 4 guidance, and I'm looking forward to talking to you next week.